The landmark nuclear deal with Iran has been signed and sealed, but will it deliver? Illegal ivory trade network in Thailand changed tactics to avoid official crackdown. And couples in Hong Kong's yearly wedding expo show off the latest trends in bridal gowns. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Linord Moudou. This is Africa 54. Vincent McCurry is off today. The landmark international nuclear deal with Iran has been reached, but skeptics abound, including members of the U.S. Congress. Most Republican lawmakers are strongly rejecting it as dangerous, and most Democrats say they are reserving judgment until they get a chance to study the details. VOA's Cindy Sain has reaction from Capitol Hill.
As news from Vienna of an Obama administration-backed deal on Iran reverberated around the U.S. Capitol Tuesday, Republican leaders wasted no time in rejecting it. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
The Iranians appear to have prevailed in this negotiation, maintaining thousands of centrifuges, enriching their threshold nuclear capability instead of ending it, reaping a multi-billion-dollar windfall to spend freely on terrorism.
At a House Foreign Affairs Committee hearing on the implications of a deal, Chairman Ed Royce was skeptical.
The bet that the administration is taking is that in 10 or 15 years we will have a kinder, gentler Iran.
After the hearing, former Undersecretary of State Nicholas Burns told VOA he supports the deal.
I also think we're better off trying to resolve this diplomatically, peacefully, than by using force.
Meanwhile, President Obama warned Congress not to try to kill the agreement.
So I will veto any legislation that prevents the successful implementation of this deal.
This, in turn, angered Republicans, including Congressman Chris Smith.
This is day one. He's already talking veto. If it's such a good deal, why not persuade Congress and, by extension, the American people about its contents? Instead, veto card goes right up.
Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton led the Democratic response.
This does put a lid on the nuclear program, but we still have a lot of concern about the bad behavior.
The House and Senate have 60 days, once the nuclear accord has been formally submitted to them, to approve it, reject it, or take no action. If they reject it, President Obama could then veto a congressional resolution of disapproval. It would then take a hard-to-get two-thirds majority in both chambers to override a presidential veto. Cindy Sain, VOA News on Capitol Hill.
Now, analysts say the nuclear deal reached between Iran and world powers could have long-lasting implications for both sides if it can be fully implemented. We get more from VOA State Department correspondent Pam Dawkins.
As news from Vienna of an Obama administration-backed deal on Iran reverberated around the U.S. Capitol Tuesday, Republican leaders wasted no time in rejecting it. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
The Iranians appear to have prevailed in this negotiation, maintaining thousands of centrifuges, enriching their threshold nuclear capability instead of ending it, reaping a multi-billion-dollar windfall to spend freely on terrorism.
At a House Foreign Affairs Committee hearing on the implications of a deal, Chairman Ed Royce was skeptical.
The bet that the administration is taking is that in 10 or 15 years we will have a kinder, gentler Iran.
After the hearing, former Undersecretary of State Nicholas Burns told VOA he supports the deal.
I also think we're better off trying to resolve this diplomatically, peacefully, than by using force.
Meanwhile, President Obama warned Congress not to try to kill the agreement.
So I will veto any legislation that prevents the successful implementation of this deal.
This, in turn, angered Republicans.
And following the announcement of the Iran nuclear deal, Africa 54 business correspondent Alexis Christophorus went down to the floor of the New York Stock Exchange to see how the deal was affecting the markets.
We didn't see a huge reaction in the oil markets after this historic deal was inked. Why do you think?
Well, truthfully, the market had already reacted in anticipation. Oil's been under pressure for the last few days, trading at a 51 handle on the West Texas Intermediate side, coming into the actual formal announcement. So I think what we actually saw was short covering against that procedure, because we now realize that the oil is not going to be released till at least the end of the year, and even that will only be a trickle. The anticipation was there was going to be a huge dump into the marketplace. That's not going to happen. So you've actually seen oil rally.
When the Iranian oil does start to hit the market, are we going to start seeing price wars in the oil market, something we haven't seen in decades?
I hope so. And quite frankly, the oil has been one of these very strange commodities. It's not been a function of supply and demand of the commodity. It's been supply and demand of the money trying to get into the marketplace. The last time oil was above $100 a barrel was the day J.P. Morgan sold their commodity trading business. It has never seen that price since. So that gives you an idea of the kind of money flow that was going into that marketplace. There wasn't enough room for the capital going in, no less than that we now are in a situation where we don't have room for the oil we have. There's more oil on the top of the earth right now than since I've been alive, which I'm 55 years old. So that should tell you that oil has no business being at $100 a barrel. It had no business being at $60 a barrel. I truly believe that oil will see a $40 handle by the end of the year.
So you're thinking we're going to see $40 oil by the end of the year and then slowly start to creep up as we see Iranian oil hit the market?
Well, as the Iranian oil hits the market, actually will put more, I think that's where the pressure will come from on oil. Because what we're really looking at today, when you're talking about trading oil, is the front month contract. So you saw that bounce from the 51 handle. It's back at about $53 right now as we have this conversation. So that's a reaction to, wait a minute, it's not going to happen as fast as we want. But as the market starts to react, so the out contracts will start to see, which that's a whole nother trading method where the back contracts are less expensive than the forward contracts. So I think that's what you'll start to see happen as the Iranian oil starts to leak into the marketplace.
That was Africa 54 business correspondent Alexis Christophorous covering the market reaction to the Iran nuclear deal. Now turning to the fight against global terrorism, U.S. law enforcement officials say a key weapon in countering terrorism is the public's help, but building trust between authorities and various groups, particularly Muslim American communities, can be problematic. Here is VOA's Kokab Fashori.
In the war on terror, U.S. authorities say they need everyone's help. And with tensions between police and the public often strained, they are adding a second plea: trust us.
You have to have that basic trust in law enforcement. That's what we do. And I would encourage people, don't lose that, because we're the ones that are out there really to protect and serve the public. And the only way we can do that is with their help.
The government's efforts at countering violent extremism, or CVE, are meant to target militant ideologues of all stripes. But there is a sense among some Muslim Americans that they are being unfairly singled out.
I think the problem with our CVE work right now with law enforcement is they seem to be focused on Muslims, when actually, from their own data, the problem is much wider.
With such racially charged attacks as the killing of 9 black churchgoers in Charleston last month, police say they understand the criticism and argue they are concerned about extremist elements wherever they may be.
And we encourage, again, every parent, regardless of what age, to monitor their children's social media sites, their cell phone usage, their text messaging, all those things that could indicate there may be getting involved with the wrong group, because we know that not only Muslim extremist groups, but locally homegrown extremist groups are becoming a real concern.
This police outreach appears to be paying off.
With relation to some of the community-oriented policing, you have a number of tips by the Muslim community regarding some radicals in their midst that have aided in undermining plots here in the U.S.
After more than a decade of mutual suspicion, such cooperation is being welcomed as a sign that trust between authorities and various segments of the public may be on the rise. Kokab Fashori, VOA News, Washington.
Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras faces a battle to secure parliamentary backing for the bailout deal he reached with the European Union on Monday. The deal calls for severe austerity measures, and a number of lawmakers have vowed to oppose it. Meanwhile, protests have broken out in the streets of Athens. Henry Ridgewell reports.
Greece may have a bailout deal, but little has changed on the streets. Banks remain closed and close to collapse. There are long lines at ATMs, and the €60 limit on withdrawals is still in place. It's clear that under the deal, the hardship will go on. Many blame Germany, especially its finance minister, for demanding more austerity.
Schäuble and those similar to him are so inhumane. They take no consideration of other people's lives. Those who have reached an impasse, who have committed suicide, children who are hungry.
Others are turning on Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras and his Syriza party, which was elected on the promise of ending austerity. One protester set fire to a Syriza flag outside Parliament. The deal demands pension cuts, tax hikes and the sell-off of €50 billion worth of public sector assets. Greek lawmakers have until the end of Wednesday to vote on the proposals. Some have pledged to oppose elements of the agreement, including the head of Syriza's coalition partner, the Independent Greeks Party.
Δεν θα επιτρέψουμε να συνεχιστεί αυτό το παιχνίδι, το οποίο θέλει.
We will not permit for this game to go on. When in a democracy, and the country where democracy was born, the people do not decide, but some unelected official from Berlin decides.
Prime Minister Tsipras could also struggle to sell the deal to the Greek people, who voted emphatically against further EU-imposed austerity measures in a referendum earlier this month.
It just repeats what was done before. And what happened before was that austerity killed growth and it raised unemployment, and it damaged the legitimacy of the economic reforms which the creditors insisted upon.
Germany ruled out any so-called haircut or reduction on the amount Athens owes its creditors.
The German taxpayer does not want to be on the hook for Greece, and it will be very difficult for Merkel, with the domestic pressures that she faces, to climb down on that. So I think that Brexit is still very much on the table.
The International Monetary Fund said Tuesday Greece has missed a second payment and is now $2.2 billion in arrears. Greece owes the European Central Bank $3.85 billion by July 20th. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
And we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, an illegal ivory trade network changes its tactics to avoid a crackdown. Stay with us.
I am Shaka Sali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa.
Today we'll examine the tobacco industry.
We pretty much touch on anything that you can think of. Politics, health issues, human rights issues, you name it, we talk about it. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent. A very, very rare and unique opportunity to interact with their leaders.
Customs officials in Thailand say the illegal ivory trade network is changing its tactics to avoid a crackdown on the underground trade. VOA's Caroline Turner tells us more.
Thai officials displayed 102 pieces of ivory worth around 10 million baht, or $295,000. The confiscated items were found during a package scan using an X-ray machine on Friday at the airport. The package, declared as marble, was originally sent from Brazzaville in the Republic of Congo and was en route to Laos via Ethiopia, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore. Authorities said the underground trade network had changed its tactics.
We often confiscated ivory from the common routes from Africa through Thailand and to Laos. Later, they used other routes. We also found them. Now, they have changed again.
Police also said that both human and non-human DNA on the ivory would help to further the investigation.
The illegal trade has its network. We have to collect evidence. Officials from forensic science will also take part in this to collect DNA, both human and non-human DNA. The DNA can tell us if they are African or Asian elephants.
Thai officials say that this year alone they have confiscated more than $12 million worth of ivory smuggled into Thailand. Under a new law passed in January, possession of African ivory for sale in Thailand is prohibited. Much of the ivory smuggled into Thailand is shipped to China and Vietnam to meet demand. Carolyn Turner, VOA News.
Now, for over a decade, the Democratic Republic of the Congo has faced brutal armed conflicts in the eastern part of its territory. Martin Kobler, the head of the UN mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo, says the military commander of Rwandan Hutu rebels group, FDLR, Sylvestre Mukakumura, must face justice.
It is very important that we stick to the principle of fight against impunity. Sylvestre Mukakumura has to get out of the bush. He has to come to us. We will bring him to The Hague. The Hague will take him, and he should face justice.
And as the conflict in the DRC continues, rape is still being used as a tactic of war, and children have been widely recruited to serve as armed actors. To address these challenges and other, Janine Mabunda Lyoko was appointed in 2014 as Special Representative of the President of the DRC in charge of the fight against sexual violence and child recruitment. And she joins us today. Ms. Mabunda, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So you were appointed last year. My question is, why now? Why last year? This conflict has been ongoing for so many years, and perpetrators have been doing what they are doing for so many years. Why now?
Now, because since 2013, as you may have known, we have succeeded in neutralizing the last most violent rebellion group, which was to be called M23. And so we create the context of a beginning of peace, and this peace momentum has to benefit to the people of Congo. And for a day-to-day person to feel the sense of peace, he needs to make sure that he's got access to security and to justice. And security and justice in Eastern Congo, given the decade of conflict, starts with fighting against impunity and protecting women from rape issue and soldier child.
So this year, the United Nations came out with a report saying that there have been some progress when it comes to sexual violence against women. From last year to this year, the numbers have decreased. So tell us about that. Does it have to do directly with your appointment, or a big picture in terms of what is being done on the ground?
I think this number doesn't come isolated. It's really the show and the reflection of gains and progress that DRC is doing. Because there is also another story of DRC, which is not just about misery and troubles. There is a story of DRC of people with the sense of resilience, a sense of rebound. And we have decided that we have to tackle this issue. I think you know that President Kabila is from a young generation, a generation which is more sensitive to gender equality, women and men contribution to the construction of the development of a country. And he felt that he has to put a strong commitment on it, because on the constitution basis is the guarantor of the civilian people. And he has to deliver towards that. And especially he thought that women, being 52% of the population, meaning the majority in DRC, needs to be protected, hence my appointment.
Now, to go specific in the numbers, the reports say we went from 15,000, more than 50,000, to more than 10,000, which is about 33% decrease. But still, more than 10,000 is still enough when you think about, it's still a lot rather, when you think about women being raped and the violence and everything.
I think you're right. Any case of rape is still a cause of concern. But at least DRC is taking the lead on the issue. They are taking the ownership. And we have been very determined and resolute in terms of fighting against impunity. We used to be presented as the capital of rape. And this tag is not a tag honoring all the country. Congo is about 70 million people. And when you speak about 10,000 cases in decrease, I think it's a good sign. How do we do it? We really address directly where it hurts. And where it hurts, it was all these stories of military security forces raping women, as collateral damages of the decade of war that we didn't choose the war. Yeah. We have 9 frontiers, and we were surrounded by people willing war in the DRC. So we faced the war, and in 2013 we succeeded to stabilize it. And we said that as a nation we have to fight against it. We went to the military and we said, you have been heroic soldiers to protect and defend your country and your flag. Now you're going to be soldiers of peace, and soldiers of peace start by addressing this issue, correcting this misbehavior, which is the collateral damage of war. War is over, so now we have to go to justice. And they opened their door to me. Mm-hmm. We went on all the justice courts, and we let them know. We let know to the military judges that there is no more tolerance in it.
Absolutely, because we've seen reports saying that the soldiers were perpetrating rape as well. Now, quickly, when it comes to recruitment of child soldiers, what is being done?
I mean, today we can say that the army of Congo is a soldier child-free army in such a manner that today is the troops of Congo, which are in Central Africa where there is conflict, because the region considers that the troops of Congo have an expertise about post-conflict and dealing with the soldier child issue. 10 years back, we had soldier child. We started with the help of United Nations in 2004, addressing the issue. And it means that we have separated from armored groups and army 46,000 children in a period of 10 years. And this is a challenge and an achievement for a country which was perturbated like us.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for your insights, and we wish you good luck in your new endeavor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Janine Mabunda-Lyoko is Special Representative of the President of the DRC on sexual violence and other issues. As the Muslim holy month of Ramadan draws to a close, one community east of Los Angeles, California, is trying to reach out to non-Muslims to show them that their faith is peace-loving and has nothing to do with the extremist actions portrayed in international news coverage. Here is Elizabeth Lee.
The month of Ramadan is a time when Muslims fast and focus on God. And in the town of Chino at the Beth el-Hamid Mosque, it is also a time to find common ground with non-Muslims.
We as law enforcement professionals share in your same plight. Because every day on the news you're watching the secular media tell you a story about law enforcement and policing that I'm telling you is wrong.
Just like media coverage of over-policing in the U.S., many American Muslims say news of Islamic extremists in the Middle East and elsewhere does not reflect who they are.
And it's very similar to what happened post 9/11 with what was going on with Al-Qaeda, where you had this juxtaposition. You had those who claimed to be Muslim doing the most heinous acts and proclaiming the name of Allah and the name of the Holy Prophet and doing such horrible things. And then you have a community like ours.
Theirs is a community of Ahmadiyya Muslims. Unlike most Muslims, this movement within Islam believes its Messiah arrived in the 19th century. A few years ago, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community started a campaign in the U.S. called Muslims for Loyalty.
We firmly believe that we can both be a good Muslim and a good American.
Is a way for us to reach out to the communities around the world and show that as Muslims we're also loyal to our nation.
The Imam of this community says extremists tarnish his faith.
They say they are Muslim, but according to our religion, they are not a real Muslim, because that is that they have their own agenda, which they are using the name of the religion.
Some here express concern that young Muslims in other parts of the world may be recruited by extremists.
The only way to counter this negative image that may be conveyed to the young people is for our own youth to engage in setting the record straight.
This Ahmadiyya Muslim community says, for the record, their faith is one of love, loyalty, and peace. Elizabeth Lee for VOA News, Chino, California.
It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. A range of beautiful bridal gowns in Hong Kong's Wedding Expo. We'll be right back.
We are on our way to an AIDS-free generation.
And we'd like to take one photo with everyone here, please. Thank you.
to give up war for the sake of the people.
And welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what is trending today. The biggest book release of the year is finally here. 55 years after the publication of the classic To Kill a Mockingbird, Harper Lee's new novel, To Go Set a Watchman, is now available. The novel introduces 6-year-old tomboy scout from Mockingbird some 20 years after the events of the first novel. Now called Jean Louise Finch, she travels from New York back to her Alabama hometown to visit her father and consider a marriage proposal from a childhood friend. Beloved lawyer Atticus Finch is 72 years old, has crippling arthritis, and harbors views that may come as a shock to Mockingbird fans. Watchman has written in the 1950s before Lee penned her 1960 Pulitzer Prize-winning masterpiece. Next up, a transgender teen and youngest YouTube star has landed her own TV docuseries. 14-year-old Jazz Jennings was assigned male gender at birth, yet was sure as young as 2 years old that she was a girl. She transitioned into jazz at 5. Since being interviewed on television at age 6, Jazz Jennings has emerged as a leading advocate, role model, and explainer for the transgender community. She makes her heart-to-heart YouTube videos that get hundreds of thousands of views. Now you can follow her everyday routine on I Am Jazz, an 11-episode unscripted series premiering on TLC network today. And finally, couples in Hong Kong aren't sparing any expense at the yearly Wedding Expo. Models show off the latest trends in bridal gowns. A range of colors and designs, including more traditional Chinese embroidered gowns, are on display. Wedding gown designers say most brides now prefer gowns with simple, classic designs. Couples having a series of pictures taken together before getting married is also proving to be a popular trend in Asia. And that is what is trending today. Lenore.
Beautiful dresses there, Esther. Thank you so much. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 300 and 600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching, and good night from Washington.
Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words, where we explain words you hear in the news.
Here's a phrase about something that is very dangerous. The story is about how Americans were preparing to get rid of dangerous weapons in Syria.
What we'll do is convert materials that are chemical weapons themselves or precursors for chemical weapons. We'll change them chemically into compounds that are no longer usable for that.
Chemical weapons. These are weapons that produce poisonous smoke or gas or liquids that can burn the skin.
Chemical weapons can hurt or kill the people who come in contact with them.
Now, the next time you hear the phrase chemical weapons, you will know what these news words mean.